All right, time for variables. I'm making a separate video for serial, but I'm going to use serial here just to display how the variables work. All right, so the first thing of a variable, and we did talk about that a little bit earlier, is that a variable is stored in memory. All right, so let's say, as an example, you have let's use temperature again. Uh, a temperature reading that you read of 10 degrees Celsius. You can put it into memory, and now you can use it throughout your code to do maybe a comparison that says if temperature is above 10 degrees, do something, or if it's below 10 degrees, do something else. Or you just might want to display the temperature on your screen. That temperature will first be in your memory, and then from there on you can just say, show me the temperature that's stored in memory. How does your computer know, or your code know? Because you might have 20, 30 variables in memory. You give your variable a name. Now, I've done something very easy to explain all this. I created a variable that's called a, and I said a equals 1. So in memory, what will happen is the memory will have then, well, it will store in memory the a equals 1. So from now on, you can just say a and it will return 1. All right, you can have b, like in this case, b equals 2. And you can now then obviously just say b, and 2 will be returned from memory. You can use variables even inside your loops by creating a new one that's maybe c, and you can do calculations like a plus b, where a obviously is 1 and b is 2, so you should get 3 as the variable c. So you can do a lot with variables, but the main function of a variable is to put something in memory and then to be able to recall that value back in your code. You'll see in front of a variable is, in this case, int. It stands for integer, that is a number. There's also float, that is a number with a decimal in it. You can have a string. A string is text. And you can have Boolean, that is 0 or 1. You can also think of it as true, false, yes, no, and so forth. So there's a lot of data types. Why is a data type important? Because memory space is allocated for a variable according to its data type. So an int, for instance, will use less memory space than a float, for instance. Boolean, that's really just a 0 or 1, will take only one character up in memory. But that space needs to be allocated before the variable can be created. So you can see here we created variables, not inside the setup or the loop, but way on top. And basically what we say here is we want to create an integer, a number. We're going to call this variable, in this case a, and its value will be 1. You can also create a variable without a value to it, and then later in your code assign variables to it. So that's the long and the short of a variable. So the data types, if you go to help, and from there on you go to references, you'll find all the data types that's supported in the Arduino IDE and in the code. But what you'll probably use most of the time is int for a number or float for numbers with decimals. Temperature will normally be with decimals like 13.5 degrees Celsius and so forth. Now next is I want to show this on screen, and we'll have a whole section around, or a whole video around serial. But serial is just to print whatever is on the microcontroller that you want to print inside your serial monitor. Now here's an output screen, but also if I click to serial monitor, you can see how it's printing things from the microcontroller. You can also access it straight from this button here to the top. So let me show you what I've done here. Is I said A is 1, B is 2, then I created a new variable, C, and I said C equals A plus B, 1 plus 2, and you can see in the output that it gives back 3. So that's how you use variables. In short, we will look at serial print next, and there's a setting that's very important to set in your Arduino IDE that we will talk about and look at, and then how to use serial and what that is all about. But for now, that is it. That's all I want to talk about in regards to variables. It's a concept that I really want you to get. Variables are used all the time, even in your AI code. You might not even talk about variables in your AI coding, but it's always useful to say, create all the variables to the top and comment each variable of what it will do, so I can easily change variables when I want to do something specific, right? So that is it for now. I'll see you in the next lesson, and we'll talk about serial, which is also then the last part of our conventional programming before we hit the really important AI coding section. I'll see you there.